Hey, I'm Zach. I'm Lil Quabs on Twitter. Um, yeah, hey, I'm here.
Thank you, Zach. Very cool. I am Mackle Mallory. That is what I am at on Twitter, except there's an OW at the end. I write for the Boston Uprising, which means I'm constantly having a great time. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Cool. Okay, so on WatchHaus, as you know, we like to reset our watches. So let's go ahead and do that. Basically, I think we've all kind of just been stuck in recap jail as we enter back into stage 2 of the Overwatch League last week. Other than that, that's really all I've been doing other than some behind the scenes stuff. Zach, what about you?
Yeah, recaps, reviews, power rankings, getting all my stuff in for the Gladiators. Uh, you know, doing stuff here and there, but helping out when I can, writing about my boys.
What about you, Mallory?
I mean, hey, I'm pretty much doing the same thing. Writing them recaps, talking about Boston, asking them to maybe, I don't know, do something that's not a reverse sweep, because I'm gonna die of old age at 26. And lately, I've been making some fun Twitter headers for all of my friends. So if my friends at the Game Haus want a fun Twitter header, you talk to me, I will hook it up.
Yeah, they've been amazing.
Can confirm.
I think there's been one more thing we've been working on, Mallory. Do you want to announce it?
Oh, there sure has been one more thing we've been working on. So with myself and Kate and a couple other of the female writers from the Game Haus, we will be starting our own sort of segment like WatchHaus, and we will be calling it the House Queens. So it will be all 5 of us talking together about Overwatch, about, women in Overwatch, how we relate to it, what we want to do, et cetera, et cetera. And we are hoping to talk to women in the esports scene as well. Not just particularly high up people, but basically women in this industry who have something to say and want to talk to us about it and want to talk to everybody about it. I think that's starting up at the end of this month on the 23rd, if I'm correct. Thank you very much. I can't
23rd, that Tuesday at 9 p.m., we will be live with our first episode. So we hope you guys will be joining us for that. We're very excited. Okay, so let's get right into it, shall we? We had a lot of great games this weekend, a lot of not so great games this weekend. It was a pretty wild ride for the first week back. Let's talk about our top games of the weekend. Zach, why don't we start with you? What were your top games of the week?
I had 3 games that I really enjoyed watching. Definitely that Gladiator Soul game. I didn't get to catch all of it, but that map 5 was ridiculous. Void is
Overwatch.
still an absolute beast. As much as I am saddened by Bishu not playing, I'm content in knowing that Void can step up and fill his spot. The London versus Atlanta game was actually really interesting to watch because London really looked to be returning to that team that we know that they can be when Jester can play Winston. Like they showed his stats on his Rhine versus his Winston, and it is night and day. He is just incredible. So maybe, I don't know, hopefully he'll be able to fix that. And finally, that Chengdu game against Paris, it's always fun to see Chengdu do well with their fun compositions and DPS play. Such a foreign concept. But those definitely were my 3 favorite games I watched this weekend.
You really had to do me about the Paris game, didn't you? You just had to get in there about it.
I like my DPS characters. What can I say?
That's right. He didn't have to do that to us. But
I was not a fan of the Paris Chengdu game, but I was a big fan of the Paris Charge game. That one I was quite happy with. That was back when I had hope that, maybe they were getting back to being a good team, but then, the next couple of days they proved me wrong. Kate and loving inconsistent teams name a more iconic duo, by the way. But yeah, that game was really great to see. I loved seeing Danye for the first time. I loved seeing LH Cloudy. That's my boy. He is much better than Benbest, so I was super happy about that. I wasn't so sure about the Hip Gray substitution, but Gray really popped off, and I was quite impressed with his play, especially on Ana. My other game was the Spark versus Titans game. Yes, it was a 4-0, but it was really close for a lot of those maps, and the Spark Boys really did give it their all, and I think they should be proud of what they did. Unfortunately, it's just Vancouver. Their Bumper's a beast. We saw Stitch. Like, it was absolutely insane. And those were my top 2 games of the week. What about you, Mallory?
God. Well, Boston Uprising, they have this new fun thing that they want to do where the first 2 games, they'll just be like, I don't know what I want to do. Let's just hang out, you guys. And then they'll go on break for halftime. And then they'll come back afterwards and they'll be like, all right, we're going to win now. And that happened twice. I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm so happy for them, especially since Color Hex is, like, playing right now with all the DPS. And same with Blase. Like, Blase on Tracer, I think during the first game against the Atlanta, the last map where Blase was playing Tracer, he was killing it. Like, him and RCK were the main reasons why they took Busan and the series. Both of those games, on top of being super close, were also just good. Like, I was really worried about the Toronto Defiant game. I did not think we were going to win. I thought it was going to go to map 5. Now it's always going to go to map 5. But I thought Toronto was going to win. And I even talked to Dave about it. And I was like, Dave, I think Toronto's going to win. And Dave was like, I don't know. And he, in the end, apparently Boston decided they wanted to win. So now I don't know what to expect going forward in any other game except this. Just stress and madness. Other than me having a stressful time, I really liked the New York and Dragons game. I know the Dragons lost, but they looked super good on Hanamura. Like, they full held New York for maybe like 6 minutes. It was a really long time, and Geggery was doing work. Her and Gamsu together as like a tank pairing is one of my new favorite tank duos in this league right now. Like, whenever they play together, it is so good and clean, and I don't know why they don't play her as much, but they need to start doing that again. And they took them to a draw, and Eichenwald's was this close. It was this close. So the Dragons are getting better. They're improving. They're doing their best. I definitely think they're going to win more games going forward. It's just hard to beat the NYXL because they're the NYXL. But I have hope. They showed signs of hope, so I have hope.
They played well. Their game against the Gladiators, like, it was not, like, a 3-1 scoreline is not, like, indicative of how the Dragons played. Like, the Dragons played well. So,
what did you think about the Gladiators during that game? Because honestly, to me, they looked a little bit shaky sometimes. Are you concerned with how they're going to do going into the stage, especially with all the stuff with Surefour?
No, I am very confident.
Okay.
I think that even though at times they were a bit shaky, the one map that they lost, they came out with a very interesting composition where they were trying to run a bunch of different things, and Surefour was playing, and it was weird, but I liked it. And I was okay with it. Like, I was glad that they were trying something different. And then when they did eventually switch over to their 3-3 comp, it was so much better from stage 1. Like, it was a night and day difference. Like, if you look at this game versus, like, say their, like, week 3 game last stage, they did not know how to communicate or play at a 3-3. And we saw them kind of turn around at the end of last stage. But in their game against Shanghai, they communicated a lot better, and while they did run some interesting things, some that worked, some didn't, they definitely look a lot better going forward.
Except respectable.
And they also don't have that many hard opponents this stage.
Ooh. That's toxic. Meanwhile, me and Mallory are out here stressing with our schedules. I'm very not excited for Philly's upcoming games. I think the Toronto Defiant game will be probably the most interesting one so far, but we'll get to that later. Why don't we actually go to some of the worst moments of we had some interesting games this weekend. I'll start us off with talking about the Washington Justice against the London Spitfire. No, oh my god, sorry, my mind is blinking. Who was it
that Washington played against?
Washington, yes.
On Kings Road.
Chengdu, wasn't it Chengdu? I want to say yes because Ameng.
I think so.
Sorry, y'all. I'm having a moment.
Sorry,
y'all. I'm having a bit of a moment. Pretty sure it was Chengdu.
But
Yeah, it was either them or the Defiant. That's who they played this week.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was Chengdu, and I want to talk specifically about King's Row. Yes, it was the Chengdu Hunters. That King's Row map, they full held them, and then somehow managed to absolutely mess it up right at the like for 5 minutes straight. I don't understand what was going on during all of that. You saw some kind of small moments of greatness, especially from Corey. Corey was popping off that entire game, but the rest of it was just an absolute nightmare. What did y'all think of that game, that series?
It was nice to see Corey get to play some DPS.
Yeah.
I mean, that like it's the one highlight that Washington had in that game is that they were able to run Corey on the DPS where we know that he can shine and be Corey in the house. But like if trends continue, Washington are going to continue to sit on the bottom of the table, and I don't know what can be done.
Yeah, especially since they've brought in Arc. They benched Fozix. You would think that would have kind of helped a bit, and it kind of did. Not really. I think they still have a lot more things to figure out before they maybe get another win. Because
there are signs of life.
Yeah, there's signs, but it's literally just Corey, though. I think Corey is the true potential, and I think once they kind of start maybe building around him a bit more instead of maybe focusing on Giannis, that might help a bit. But we'll see going forward for them. Another game for me that was just kind of interesting to watch is just kind of the downfall of the Atlanta Reign this weekend.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I didn't think Dufresne was the carry, but it appears he might have been.
Dufresne was the carry.
Yeah, it appears he might have been. They were looking really rough. Baby Bay does not know how to play Zarya. He's absolutely those grabs.
Okay, but also you can't just chalk that up to Baby Bay. Fury is an absolute monster.
That's true. He was very hungry.
Insane.
That clip of him just like peeking back to
absolutely.
Absolute man. He is insane. I will give him that. But overall, Atlanta Reign was just looking really rough. You would think with the addition of Fried, that's how you pronounce the casters, Fried, that would have helped a bit. But it seems that they're just kind of struggling with kind of figuring out what to do now that Dufresne's gone. So it'll be kind of interesting to see where they go from here.
It's hard when you lose a major member of your team, like especially as someone who is such both a force in game and out of game. It seems like he definitely kind of was a focal point of that team. And when you lose that, you kind of lose a little bit of your identity as a team. So trying to figure out who's going to slot into that role and how the chemistry of the team itself is going to work with new additions to the team as well that are going to have to play characters that maybe they're not as comfortable with. It leads to a quick demise.
Right. What about you, Mallory? What were some of your worst moments from this weekend?
Oh, God. I mean, listen. I had to watch that London-Florida game with my own two eyes. And let me tell you, watching Florida almost full hold London with a Bastion behind an Orisa shield, and I think there was a Torb there, and they were just sitting there on the high ground, and for some reason, Jester just did not know what to do. I had to watch that for like 5 minutes, and it was bad. I was not having a good time. I understand that bunker comps are really popular now because of Baptiste and the immortality field, so it's so easy to just get everybody in the circle, and then Bastion just doesn't die. But I don't know. There was something about the fact that London, who is like for the most part a decent team, like they're usually pretty middle of the pack when they're not skewing upwards. You can't really talk that much shade about them since they're the grand champions. But there's something about watching the Florida Mayhem full hold the London Spitfire with a Bastion that just made me go, why am I watching this? Why is this happening? I hated it, and I did not like it, and I don't want to see it ever again.
Do you think the switching to the all-Korean roster is going to help the Florida Mayhem going forward?
Oh, girl, I don't know. I mean, listen, there's a lot to be said about the way that whole thing happened, and I still don't know why you would give away McGravy and keep Swan instead, because McGravy's right there, and he's good. But, I mean, hey, if they think this is what's going to help, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. Firing half your staff and then hiring 2 other people, it's not going to fix it instantly. So if this is what they think the answer is, they have to put work into it, and they have to find a way to make the team more cohesive, because I don't know. It's still not doing it for me. It's not.
I think there's something to be said, though, that the Florida Mayhem were able to, 2-1 the London Spitfire, where the Atlanta Reign got 4-0'd by, the London Spitfire. That, to me, just kind of says something's shifting, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Philly also struggled against them. I'm, not too proud to, I'll say it. They struggled really hard against them. Thank you, Zephyr, for being our 7th member with that C9. It's a yikes. I think the Florida Mayhem is definitely going to either maybe start doing it better, or we might see them kind of go in the end. It's either or. Like, there's no middle ground, I think, for them, and I think it'll be kind of interesting to see that journey going forward.
It's sad to say that they're still better than the LA Valiant, and that hurts my heart. So.
Yeah, I think that hurts everyone.
Not me.
Not you.
It does. But I mean, I will say that, like, as much as I was rooting for London in that game against Florida, it's nice to see that other teams can put up a fight. Like, it's not. It would be boring if every week if we were able to predict every single game.
Right.
Like, it's nice to see that any team on any given day can beat anyone unless their name is the Titans. So.
Boy.
And the Shock, apparently.
Apparently,
which, I don't know, what about y'all? Like, for me, last year, they were just kind of middle of the pack, didn't really think much about them, and then all of a sudden, they just come back, and it's like, bang, they're insane. And I don't know, for me, it's just been really interesting to watch their journey out of everyone. Made my camera go really dark, sorry. But
I was one of the people who wasn't too hype on them at the beginning. Like, I agree, they were okay. Like, they definitely had some good players, some good plays. They weren't like anything that on my radar. At the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, like, everyone really thinks they're going to be good. They have, like, of their 12 members, I'm pretty sure 5 or 6 of them are DPS specialists. Like, it wasn't going to happen. And then they just absolutely blew it out of the water and showed that they can hang with the best of them. And I'm fully bought in on the hype. I think that they're definitely top 3 team right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the addition of Violet also really helped. Or was he on the team last year and they brought him in? No? Okay, so he was a new addition. Yeah. That's what I thought.
I think he just turned 18.
Okay. Yeah, he's been him and Moth, absolutely insane. Like, I liked Sleepy, but it's just such a big difference watching those two together. Moth is absolutely great, and you can tell that they're kind of following his lead, I think, during those games. So it's been really fun to watch. What about you, Zach? What was one of your worst moments from the weekend?
Shanghai was so stubborn. And I mean, I can't... Okay, so in the 2 games that I was writing about, there was just a lot of stubbornness. So Shanghai on Anubis refused to get off of that composition with the Junkrat. They were just like, we are going to ride this out on attack and defense no matter what. And it was their downfall. They couldn't land a single kill with the Riptire. It just wasn't happening for them. But they decided, instead of, all right, let's cut our losses, let's switch to a 3-3 to match this 3-3, they wouldn't do it. And they ended up losing that match. And they did that against New York as well, where we got that clutch play where Jonak slept the Pharah when the Pharah was nano boosted and had her ultimate. And they eventually realized, all right, we've got to do this, and didn't even get to use that. So I think the stubbornness from teams is what's really killing them, and that's one of the reasons that Atlanta lost, I think, so bad. Is you look at that first map on Oasis, it took them until both rounds, it was like 70% London already had on the point for them to switch their comp up. And by that time, it was just way too late. And then on Blizzard World, they kept trying things, and it wasn't working. And as soon as they switched it up, London switched it up. Like, London learns, okay, they're changing things up, we're changing things up, because that's how you're going to win that game. So I think that teams that are continuing to be stubborn, as much as they think that their best comp might be one thing, being able to move around with the players that you have is infinitely more important.
I agree. We did see a lot more teams switching it up, though. There was a lot more DPS, triple DPS comps, which I thought was interesting, which I was really excited for.
I'm here for
I
it.
think um, I'm happy to see that goats is kind of becoming a not as common thing. Like, there are still a few maps where I think people certainly prefer it, but it was really nice seeing a lot more wrecking balls. I think Ameng is starting a big trend with that one. He's been absolute joy to watch, and it's just been really nice to see other teams kind of trying that as well. But it is definitely frustrating to see teams like the Shanghai Dragons just kind of struggling with that. Especially, there was just a lot of weird junk rip tire moments throughout the weekend. EQO had a few iffy ones. Trying to think of who else was on. I think Blase was on Junkrat at one point.
Did anyone get a rip tire kill this weekend?
I don't think so. I really don't.
I saw once when it took out a mech, and I saw once in the Atlanta game when they got Prophet down to about 1 HP when he was Hammond. So
yeah, like EQO, there were like, I believe it was like Mercy and Zen over here. He went straight for the Diva mech, and I was like, EQO, hello.
Yeah.
I'm in gold, but these
more
two
like
are more
EQ
killable.
No.
EQ no. That was a good one. Yeah, so there's just a lot of questionable stuff. It's like, oh yeah, DPS players, like characters exist. How do we play them again? And it was kind of disappointing to see from that, but there were a lot more popping off moments as well. I just kind of think back to Corey, when he wasn't on McCree. That was actually, that's another good moment to add. McCree, that McCree whiff shot. There's a lot. There's a lot that happened this weekend.
It was a weekend.
But speaking of things that could maybe help teams, we're going to kind of go into a fun little segment, kind of talking about dream trades. Basically, we're going to be talking about which teams we think could benefit from maybe trading a few of their players around, and what specifically they kind of need in those areas to kind of see how they could do in the future. So I'll kind of start off with my personal dream favorite pick, because me and Mallory have been talking about this behind the scenes about how great this would be. I would love to see Kodak from the Atlanta Reign go to the Houston Outlaws. Raucus could not play Zenyatta. Love him to death. Great Ana. I think Kodak would be an absolute great fit for that team, especially since Dogman seems to kind of be the more preferred Zenyatta on that team. We're not really going to be seeing him a lot, once Dogman gets out of the doghouse from a couple of things that happened last week. So I think once that kind of gets back in, it would be nice to see Kodak be on a team where I think he could thrive. And I think the Outlaws kind of need that Zenyatta player more than anything. I think that would help them in the long run. Let's see. Why don't we go actually kind of around a little bit? Why don't we go to Zach? What would one of yours be?
My dream trade would be Surefour to the starting lineup. However, I know that that's not going to happen anytime, at least in the next few weeks. So I just need to make sure that Surefour stays exactly where he is, because he is good enough to be in the starting lineup, and just at the moment, Decay is popping off, and Hydration is playing an integral part in that. And so I think that later, especially Stage 3, Stage 4, Surefour is going to be really important to the Gladiators, and letting him go now might be one of the biggest mistakes that they can make. And it's going to suck for a while, because he's going to be that player that, he's just going to have to sit on the bench for a little bit. And it's frustrating because no one likes to do that. However, he needs to stay with the Gladiators if they want to have a chance in the future.
Okay. What about you, Mallory?
Listen, I just want to take the LA Valiant and put them somewhere else.
I think we all do.
That is my team. I love the LA Valiant. I've been a huge fan since last year. Right. So, the fact of the matter is that I don't know what's happening right now. I don't think anybody does. And between stages, there was that whole, maybe the LA Valiant and Boston were going to trade. They didn't end up doing it. I think that would have helped them a lot. I think the power of fusions and the power of Custo together with their big brains would have been great. Oh my god, the Valiant would have been like, look at this. Look at this. This is great. But, that didn't go through, and now the roster didn't really make any changes other than the fact that they started Custo for once, which is incredible. Love to see it. Huge fan. However, even with starting Custo, it didn't matter. I mean, it's hard to say how well they could have done against anybody else because they had to play against the Shock, and that game was really sad to watch. The Shock just absolutely steamrolled them. I don't even think they got a map win. I think everything was pretty much like an 0-2, 0-1, 0-2.
Jeez.
Like, it was really bad. And it was sad to watch. Face's face and Custa's face sort of said it all. Custa was so upset, visibly. So you have to wonder where the issue is, because they tried to sort of rearrange their coaching staff a bit. I'm pretty sure Pecking 10 is the one that's in charge right now in the tier room until they get somebody else. And a lot of people were very excited when they brought on Pecking 10, but it doesn't seem like Goats is their meta, but it doesn't seem like what the meta is shifting into with this triple DPS and then bunker comps, basically people sometimes just playing mystery heroes. It doesn't look like that's working for them either. They looked really good on dive. So you have to wonder if they get a different coach, will things be different? Or do you have to start making roster changes? Do you have to start cutting people out? I don't know if you can blame any specific player because they're all trying, especially Izayaki is doing all that he can to bring the Valiant into something. He will drag that team kicking and screaming. Him and Space will hold hands and say, we're doing this, I swear. So I don't know if gutting the whole roster is the right idea because there's so many faces there that people get attached to. Like if they ever got rid of Custa, I think the internet would riot. If they ever got rid of Agilities, I think the internet would riot. So I don't know. And they even tried, they started KSF to see if that helped. And it didn't. They still got stopped. So I definitely think they need to make some changes. I think they need to get a more permanent coaching staff, and they need someone who's in charge. They need someone who knows what to do with this team and to sort of scrap them down and build them back up, sort of like what Shanghai did over the offseason, where they were like, you know what, we're just going to rebuild and we're going to make this work. And it worked for them. It's still working for them. Valiant needs to do some of the same. I definitely think there could be some trades happening. Either from within the league or from, contenders outside, people who could be brought up and people who could come in. I just don't know how specific it can be right now because you don't really know. You can't pinpoint who the problem is. Right now, it's just like, this is a mess. So they need to do something. First and foremost, I just want to see a coach in there. I want a head coach. I want somebody in charge. And I want that person to sort of lead the campaign to bring the Valiant back to what they were before.
Well, there's also the problem if, they could go the Florida route and, get rid of everyone and have it still not work anyway. But, that would be just kind of sad to see. I really don't want to see... It'd be weird to not have the LA Valley, the Overwatch League, because at their core, they have really good players. Like, Space is still an amazing diva. Izayaki, of course, amazing. Agility's really great. Individually, they're all great, but together, they're just not... It's just not working, and I don't know what the big shift was, because towards the end of stage 4, they looked amazing.
They won!
They won! How do you go from winning to going 0-8 now?
0-8!
It's just, I don't really know what could help them at this point. I don't even know if a new coach would help them, because that would also be another learning process, and that would also be another stage or two of them getting to know each other and kind of fixing that. Honestly, it might take another season, through the off season, for them to maybe get things together, which is kind of really heartbreaking, even if you're not an LA Valiant fan. I'm a huge Gladiators fan. This has been heartbreaking. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So
yeah, it's hard to watch, but sometimes there are those moments when you just have to realize that you gotta cut your losses and things are going to change. I mean, that's what Florida did. It was a PR nightmare the way they did it. Do we know if it will work out or not? No, because it's a long-term plan. I don't think feasibly there's anything the Valiant can do on a short-term basis.
Right.
Definitely. It can't be short term. It's not. I think the stage is going to go just as horribly as the first one. I mean, I think they have a couple chances at redemption. I think they play the Justice.
They play the Justice next week on
Yeah.
the week 3. So,
All right.
So it could be something, but
Let's just hope it's not another Outlaws, clown fiesta.
man, Outlaws. When you brought up Kodak to the Outlaws, it's been so long since I've even thought of the Outlaws. Like, no disrespect to them, but like honestly, it's like I just haven't heard anything from them recently. Like, what are they doing? Like, I know they didn't play this week, but like,
no, I think that was also
yeah.
It was just hard. Also, I think when we were doing our rankings, because like we don't know what we're gonna see from them going into this. Because they started Bonnie on accident. And that went really well, and then they put back in Raucous, and they started doing terribly again. And it's just like, you think they've learned by now that Raucous might be kind of part of the problem, but I don't know. To me, that's just. I think their healing lineup just needs a whole new revamp, and I think they'll be not golden from there, but they look a lot better than the Valiant because that game was them. So hopefully, the Washington another clown fiesta. Corey, Overwatch specifically, please do not do this to us again.
Overwatch, do not blow this for us.
Okay, so back to one of my dream trades, just kind of like to end this little segment. I want to talk about a man who was missing from the missing persons segment that Watchpoint did this week. Our man Fragi, who we have not seen in quite some time. I am clearly the fusion girl. That's my team. I love them for better, for worse. For every map 5, they drag me kicking and screaming through. My boy Fragi needs to play. Like, he's doing great in scrims. Thanks, Coach Hayes, but where is he? He is a very aggressive player, but so is everyone on Philly. So for me, it just kind of speaks volumes that they're still not subbing him in, even during what was a major Reinhardt meta. And I think he needs a team that will appreciate him and be able to play around him. Because we saw during Incheon group stage, he still plays really well. Team Finland was able to handle him. Goose and Chaz were on his butt, and they were doing their jobs, which they're just amazing anyway. But it's just they can handle him, so why can't Philly? So for me, as heartbreaking as it is, we might need to free Fragi. And I don't know to where exactly. I had someone bring up the Florida Mayhem, and I had a mini stroke, and then they went all Korean, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Please, dear God, no. But I did see one interesting theory, which was him to the Justice. And the more I think about it, the more I don't hate it. I'm curious to see what y'all think about it, though. Fragi to Justice.
Who's their main tank player right now?
Giannis.
Oh, you're right.
There is a reason or multiple reasons that he's not playing, and those reasons just aren't known to us as the public. For some reason, he hasn't gotten traded, and for some reason, he hasn't started. So, I don't know if there is an easy fix to this, especially in a meta that still requires a communicative Reinhardt that needs to be talking to his team wholeheartedly, which means he can't, he would have trouble on a mixed language roster. He would have trouble fitting in anywhere that he hasn't played before. And so I think that I think Philly had hope for him before the season started, and then when it didn't work out, none of the teams were willing to take the risk. I think that if he would have moved somewhere before stage 1 started, we'd be talking about how great he's playing. Mm-hmm. But right now, I just don't find it feasible. Maybe he can go to the Gladiators, and him and Sherf just hang out on the bench and have cool hair and eat food. I don't know.
I don't know. I disagree about the mixed roster communication, because Stage 2 saw a really good and strong Philadelphia Fusion last year with Fragi on the starting roster. So I don't think it's so much as he wouldn't be able to do a mixed roster. I think there's just, like you said, probably a lot of stuff going on.
I just think it's an extra hurdle.
and that's fair. I do
And
think
that's
it would be
why
an extra
teams are.
hurdle. That's fair. I'll give you that. That's fair. But I don't know. I still think there's a lot more to see with Fragi, and I don't want to see him going down the route of retirement like we've seen a couple of people do, especially last week. Kind of want to segue into that actually, because we were going to talk about some major retirements last week. So last week, as probably all of you know, Effect and Coco from the Dallas Fuel both retired. And we're going to kind of go into now a little segment on mental health in the Overwatch League, because with Effect specifically, he cited his mental health as the main reason for wanting to retire. So for those of you who might not know, in the past on the Dallas Field, Effect had a lot of issues with depression and anxiety, and he actually ended up going home for a good bit of the season last season. So when coming back into this, we thought we would maybe get to see him a bit more, and we did see him, I think, for a couple of games in the first stage, and then they decided to go more with AKM because his Zarya was just kind of arguably a lot better. And then from there, I think the pressure kind of got to him that he wasn't able to perform at that level, and he decided to take a step back. And we've been seeing that a lot in like the past couple of months, just a lot of like players retiring, mostly from burnout, depression, anxiety, and I think that's becoming a major issue in the Overwatch League, and I think it's time we start maybe addressing it a bit more. Mallory, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I'm so glad you asked. I have so many thoughts on this. So, especially with Effect, I definitely remember him having those problems last year and going home. And then I remember over the summer, he came out as bi, and he seemed to be on the upward trend of being a little happier because he was living part of his truth that he felt he had to lie about. So, and then, now he's going home and he's stating he wants help and he wants to figure it out. And then just today, he posted a short little video of himself playing the piano. So he's back to playing music and he's back to sort of focusing on himself. And I think that's super important because a lot of people are very quick to forget that these players are humans. And sometimes, all the time actually, the schedule for a professional Overwatch player is rough. You have scrims pretty much all day from when you wake up to when you go to bed. You're playing the game, you're playing the game, you're playing the game. And then you'll go on stage and you'll play the game professionally. And then you'll go home and you'll play more. It's play, play, play. And that takes a lot out of somebody to just be doing the same thing over and over again, especially if, like Effect, you feel like you're not performing the way that you want to and the way that, the rest of the audience wants you to be performing. You feel an immense amount of pressure and you start to feel like it's your fault. And depression and anxiety are very real and very human things to experience. And people cannot just sort of push it aside. It's 2019. There's absolutely no reason for somebody to say, I'm taking a step back to focus on my mental health, and for somebody to chime in and say, that's stupid. It's super, super important that we give these players the attention and the treatment that they need, and we need to make sure that we're validating that these problems are real and it's okay to struggle with them, because so often people even feel afraid to voice these opinions because they feel like they will be perceived as weak or not good enough, or they're not doing it, and that's not the case. So I'm so happy that Effect is doing this for himself. I wish him literally nothing but the absolute best. I want him to get better. I want him to feel like he can live his life and be okay and not constantly be under the pressure of, the spotlight and professional esports and all these different things that can weigh you down. And I really hope that him announcing this and pulling some attention towards it can help other people in the league, regardless of if they're a player or a coach or, anybody who works in any of the organizations. I really hope that Effect stepping up and saying these things and talking about them can encourage other people to do the same, and it can validate them in the process of saying, you know what, it's all right to be struggling, and you don't have to be ashamed or afraid to ask for help. That's the most important thing.
No, I definitely agree. And I think it kind of speaks to Dallas as an organization just on that perspective. Just like he felt safe enough that he could take that step back, which I think is super
Mhm.
important because I feel like a lot of these organizations, a lot of the players might not feel like they have that safety net, like that their org will have their back if they don't perform, well, or they struggle with this. So I think that really kind of speaks to Dallas, and all of his teammates have just been super great. And it's been really like heartwarming to see them being like, hey, take this time for yourself, take care of yourself. And who knows, maybe we will see him back again one day, but I don't know. I think right now it's just good that he's focusing on himself. Zach, what do you think?
I think coming from my I think of things in terms of professional sports based off through the lens of soccer because that's what I know best. And I know a traditional European model has young kids as early as like pre-K, kindergarten. They're on a team and they're playing soccer for like a specific club. Hopefully, for the rest of their life, they'll continue to grow, continue to go through these different stages with a team, with a support network. And to continue to grow competitively. And eventually you get to that point, ideally, where you're playing the highest level of competition. You're playing, you're going, and you're doing it day in and day out. I think what's different about esports is that time is so condensed. Like, Overwatch came out in what, 2015, 2016, 2015. It's been 4 years and now we already have a professional league for it. Like, it's so condensed, and these people, you don't see anyone who's like 28, 29 in the professional esports scene. The entire professional life of an esports player is condensed into those few years that they have at the peak of their abilities. That it's an all in, all out sort of deal. Like, you can't kind of be half in it and be like, oh yeah, like I'm doing my thing. Like, someone's gonna come and be better than you if you're not giving your all. And so I think that's one of the reasons we see burnout so much, is because everyone has to be 100% 100% of the time. I think it's great that Effect realized and recognized that he couldn't do that right now and still be a complete person. And I think that takes a lot of courage and a lot of heart to realize that he needed to focus on himself because he has a whole life ahead of him that isn't esports. And I think that seeing his teammates rally around him is another important reminder that, like, these are not just like, oh, I'm playing video games with these people that are next to me. Like, this is essentially their family, because a lot of these people are living in team houses, and they're seeing each other every day, spending meals together, spending scrims together. So I think that while it's sad that he has to step away, it's very good that he is. And I think it will be good for the rest of the league to see that, like, this is a good way of handling this. That, like, you can take a step back, you're gonna be okay. And I think these orgs are showing that they care about their players more than they care about the player's performance.
Right. No, I definitely agree. We could also kind of talk in the same vein about DeFran, because he was struggling with a lot of depression, anxiety prior to joining the league, and we kind of, saw him, before the league even started that season. He was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, and he took a step back. And then you kind of saw him, I think it was pretty good of the Atlanta Reign to kind of like step in and be like, hey, no, we've got you. And clearly, like, there was a lot of stuff going behind the scenes there, and he came back and was like, I'll give this a shot. And I think that kind of support system really, like, just kind of spoke volumes, and I think that's why he had such a great time while he was there. Because despite how you might feel about him as a person, you can't deny that he's entertaining, and he was very entertaining to watch, and he was there living his best life. With the power of Twitch Prime, he was really popping off during most of his games. And I think that's another good example of an organization kind of taking care of their players, recognizing that this wasn't for him, and that, kind of finding an alternate path for him to take. So I think that move was kind of in the works, maybe as the stage was beginning. And that's why I kind of can't really believe that the Atlanta Reign are struggling this much. I believe like they knew from the beginning that Dufresne wasn't going to be here for a very long time. So for me, I think that's kind of important to kind of keep in mind with Dufresne and just that entire thing. So, y'all have anything else to add to that?
Fran's living his life. I mean,
Yeah, he's living his best life.
As much as the streamer life still like isn't for everyone, you still got to be on a lot of the time. I think that his ability to recognize, be like, hey, I did it, I tried it, I liked it, but I'm gonna go back to what's comfortable. I think that's a really cool model for people, especially those who are looking to get into either streaming and might see streaming as like lesser than. I think that's really cool that like you'd be like, this guy excelled and like could continue to excel at an Overwatch League level, but he's just having more fun streaming and doing whatever he wants. So
Yeah,
I think that's cool to see.
That's what Siegel did.
Yeah, Siegel. You could even Mendo from the Outlaws. He became a streamer. He switched games, which a lot of the players have. Silk Threads now in Apex.
Yeah, Silk Threads doing Apex.
Grim Reality, like they're all kind of finding their own things, and I think that's really kind of good to see. Like, just because you might not work out for the Overwatch League, it doesn't mean you're not going to find success somewhere else. So they just kind of, I think everyone just kind of needs to kind of figure out what their paths are. And hopefully the organizations will kind of help their players who might be struggling with their current path, and we'll see more of them just kind of seeing success, no matter where they go. Okay, since we're kind of running out of time, I think, do you guys want to go towards games that we're looking forward to this week?
Let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. Zach, why don't we start with you?
So Gladiators got themselves a real nice week where they are not playing the strongest of opponents. But I am so excited for the battle for LA. I'm sorry, but it's gonna be cry. A great game because I think Surefour might play the whole time. And I also think we might see Ripa for the first time. Because he didn't get to play. He was suspended 5 games at the beginning of the season. And then just didn't play because the Gladiators were like, well, we just need to finish out this stage. I think that the Gladiators coming off of a good 2-0 week, and then if they win against the Charge, which they should in theory, on paper they definitely should, but I think they'll go hard on that game and then look to maybe do some interesting compositions or just they have Ripa in their arsenal and they haven't had a reason to use him yet, and I think this game would be a really interesting spot to see him get some playing time.
Mallory, what about you?
All right, listen. Me and Darby are not going to be friends for a week because the Boston Uprising are playing the Spark. And me and Darby actually also had a very nice conversation about that particular game this morning. And we both agreed that we don't know what's going to happen. The Uprising, I never know what to expect. I know they're good, but God, they really know how to make me have a heart attack. And the Spark started off so strong in the beginning of stage 1, right? And then they sort of faltered a little bit. But the schedule that Boston has this stage is already hard enough. And I honestly think this game could go either way. It's going to be very rough and tumble. I think it's going to be close. If it's Boston, it's going to map 5. And I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a good time. The other games that I'm really interested in is Dallas versus Toronto, because I want to see my boy Note. My boy Note's on a different team now. I want to see how he does. I want to see him succeed, and I want to see him have a good time. And what did I have? The Hunters versus the Shanghai Dragons. That's just going to be fun. Watching the Hunters is always so much fun. They play whatever they want to play. Elsa plays Symmetra, and you know what? I'm okay with it. And I think that Shanghai might have a good time too if they let themselves have fun.
If they're not stubborn about their comps.
Yeah, I was going to say.
DM, don't play Junkrat. It's not the time anymore. It's over.
No, it's always the time to play Junkrat.
Oh, no.
Okay, so my games of the week that I'm looking forward to. I like to be in pain constantly. So, my boys, the Dallas Fuel, are going to be facing against my other boys, my Baguettes, the Paris Eternal. That's going to be an interesting one for me because the Paris Eternal started off really strong last week, and then I don't know what happened.
Didn't finish strong.
So I'm going to be excited to see which Paris we get that day. But on the opposite end of that, we also have the Dallas Fuel, who are also really inconsistent. So it'll also depend on the day to see where they will be. Will we see the good, communicative Dallas Fuel, or will we see the usual Dallas Fuel?
You'll see no Overwatch. And
I will see no Overwatch. And I'm actually really excited to see how that trade will play out on this end, because we've seen RCK just absolutely thriving with Fusions as his main tank. Like, goodness gracious, those two together have just been insane. So it'll be really, really interesting to see Note alongside OGE. I'm really excited about that. And then another game that I'm looking forward to, also maybe kind of dreading, will be the Philly versus Toronto game. Just because Philly hasn't been looking that strong, but again, their first game was against NYXL. I didn't expect them to win that one. But the Florida Mayhem game, they still look pretty shaky. And then the Toronto Defiant have been... I'm personally not sold on them, but I can't deny that they are a strong team. And I'm really curious to see how... basically how the support lineups will go up against each other, because we got Neptuno and Boombox, and I just kind of want to see how they'll do up against that team. And then another game that I'm surprised you didn't mention, Zach, will be the London versus Philly
I was
game.
waiting to mention that one. That that's going to be so good. You know, London, as inconsistent as they've been as well, I think because these teams are both playing inconsistently, but London did find a little bit of success last week, it's going to be good, because going into this season, I thought London were just going to absolutely go off, and they proved to me that Jester still isn't a good Reinhardt, and they didn't. And they lost that first game against Philly, and it was
they did. No, it was a good moment. After months.
After they beat them in the grand finals. But I think that this third battle, I think it'll go to map 5. Like I don't expect it to be a close game. I expect it to be a good game.
Yeah, no, it's always map 5 in Philly, both with their contenders team and with their actual team. Oh, we lost Mallory.
That happened.
Oh goodness. Nope, I'm still here. Okay, so we lost Mallory. I guess we'll just there she is. Give it 1 second. Sorry, folks.
Coming back. It happened.
But yeah, I think that game will be interesting. It's definitely going to go to map 5, but I'm hoping and praying. There she is. That love.
Good. We'll blame my laptop. Thank you. Goodbye.
But I think Philly might be able to do it. Maybe. I'm hoping. We'll see. Well, no, we're not. I will fight you. But yeah, I think that about covers everything we wanted to talk about tonight. Y'all have any last parting thoughts y'all want to share with the class?
Follow me on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter, low key and high key, and also Kate. I'm so glad that we can be in this map 5 hell together.
Girl, I know that one, like the two just manly arms, like clasping hands, and map 5's in the middle. That's Boston and Philly on the other side.
Fusion winning in map 5. That's what's happening right now. God.
We're gonna have a fun weekend. I think this weekend's games will be a little bit more exciting. Hopefully, not a lot of 4-0s, because those just aren't fun to watch or recap.
Fun and intense, and
we like the drama. Definitely
we love the drama. We love
the drama.
Overwatch League is an anime, so
it is.
Fissure is the anime villain.
All right, guys. I think that does it for us tonight. Thank you, everyone who tuned in. Again, I am Kate Shepard. You guys can follow me at SibylOW on Twitter. And y'all can I almost said execute yourselves. I'll let y'all finish. I'm gonna stop now.
Caitlin, it's not that kind of stream.
I'm Zach. You can follow me on Twitter at Lilquobs, LILKHOBS. Find me on YouTube on my friend's YouTube channel, Do the Thing Theater. It's a time.
I love that. You can follow me at Mallory OW. And I'll make you a Twitter header if you want. And also, don't forget to tune into House Queens. Thank you.
Yes, remember, guys, if you are interested, we will be having our first episode of House Queens on April 23rd at 9 p.m. EST. And we look forward to seeing you guys there. And yeah, I think that's it for us. Hope everyone has a great rest of your night. And thanks for watching.